The Oscar-winning director of An Inconvenient Truth is back with another provocative documentary. This one's called Waiting for Superman. It's all about how to fix our country's failing public schools, and it's already sparking a ferocious debate, even though it doesn't open until later this week. In just a moment, we'll talk to the director, Davis Guggenheim. He's right here. But first, take a look at the documentary and the controversy it's creating.
I don't know what college I want to go to, but I know I want to be a teacher. I want to be a nurse. I want to be a doctor.
How come?
Because I would like to help somebody in need.
The film follows 5 families in desperate search of a decent education for their kids. It's designed to provoke, and its conclusion is stark.
So you think that most of the kids here are getting a crappy education right now?
Oh, I don't think they are. I know they are.
Either the kids are getting stupider every year, or something is wrong in the education system.
The statistics are startling. Among 30 developed countries, we rank 25th in math and 21st in science, despite doubling education spending over the last generation. The film lays much of the blame for these failings on teachers' unions.
It's an incomplete and misleading story about public education.
But they are fighting back.
The problem with the narrative is that we are succeeding with lots of kids. We are actually improving in terms of public education. So what we need to do is actually look at not just the bad, not just the ugly, but the good as well.
And to focus on these kids. They are the film's emotional heart, their hopes set on winning a lottery that will get them into a good school. For them, everything rides on the drop of a ball.
So if Francisca doesn't get in, is there another chance?
No.
Your children and future generations are on the bridge of the Titanic, and everybody's going to drown.
Someone has taken an interest in you, someone loves you, and they recognize the importance of education. And the first student selected, 20. 9.
It takes a lot of outrage and a lot of good examples to say, yes, we can do this.
I want my kids to have better than what I had.
18, 10, 12. 2. And the last number.
And Davis Guggenheim joins us. Every time I see that scene, it gets me again because, excuse me, those kids, you want to reach out and hug every one of them. Where'd you find them?
Well, and also when I watch the movie, I want them to win every time. And it's not hard to find families all across the country that just want a great school for their kid. And these kids, you go to homes like in East LA or in the Bronx here, and you wonder, what am I going to find? Because you think, well, maybe those families are different than us. They're the same as us. These parents are just like us. They want a great school for their kid.
And part of what inspired you to get into this was you reflecting on the fact that you live in these neighborhoods, yet you send your kids to private schools.
Yeah, I mean, I originally, when they asked me to make this movie, I said, no, I don't think it can be done. And I was driving my kids to school in the minivan, and on the corner of my eye, I was counting the public schools I was passing. And in my neighborhood, where, we're not living in a really poor neighborhood, in my neighborhood, the kids aren't getting a great education. It's affecting everyone, and it sort of haunted me. Why can't we have a great school for every kid, the kids in my neighborhood? And so that was the idea of the movie. How do I make people care about other people's children?
You coin a phrase, dropout factories. That's schools where more than 40% of the kids don't get a degree. And one of the misconceptions I think that a lot of people have is that these are concentrated only in the inner cities. They're everywhere. They're everywhere.
The problem is everywhere. A lot of people think they can buy a home in a nice neighborhood, and that means their schools are going to be good. And what we found is that the erosion is happening everywhere. We follow this girl, Emily, a white middle-class family. And that school's in Newsweek top 10 schools. But it's not serving every kid. A lot of these good suburban schools are serving the top track. And it's masking failure in the rest of the schools. So it's affecting all of us, George.
You are very, very tough in this film on the teachers' unions. And we showed Randy Weingarten, the president of the American Federation of Teachers, in that piece. She's been pushing back pretty hard as well. I want to read you something else. She said, it is shameful to suggest, as the film does, that the deplorable behavior of 1 or 2 teachers, including an example more than 2 decades old, is representative of all public school teachers. Guggenheim has found ways to make facts and data interesting, even entertaining, but when certain facts don't advance his storyline, he makes them disappear.
The first movie I made was about great teachers, how much I love them and admire them. And there are great teachers in every school, and this movie is not about them. But our schools are really in trouble. And my decision was to be tough on all the adults, not just the unions, but even the Democratic Party, who has been quiet on this. I think the Obama administration has been rather good. But all the adults, people like me, I talk about how I'm part of the problem. I take my kids out into a private school, I take care of my own. We're not going to fix our schools unless the adults change and put the kids first.
But let me press you on that one more time, because you celebrate the charter schools. You celebrate charter schools, but there's an awful lot of evidence out there that charter schools do no better than most public schools. There's another new study out this morning that shows one of the other reforms that a lot of people have championed, merit pay for teachers. That doesn't make much of a difference either. Right.
Charters, it's very important to understand what charters are. They're kind of an experiment. They're only about 10 years old. And what's great about them is they're public schools that work outside the district rules and the union contracts, okay? So some of them are not going to do as well as the others for all the same reasons, and we should shut those down. But there's this, and I talk about it in the movie, I say that only 1 in 5 are successful, but the high-performing charters are showing us the way. They are blowing other schools away. They're sending 90% of their kids to college. And in those charters are the ingredients for success. And that's why this movie is very inspiring.
And that's actually, in some ways, where you have common ground with the teachers' unions, because they support the ones that basically create an entire community where the kids are taken care of.
This movie's a wake-up call, George. It's saying we have to change. Our schools have been in trouble for a very long time. But if we don't push ourselves off of these entrenched positions, I'm in an entrenched position. I'm just taking care of my kids. My wife and I, in May, walked into our neighborhood school and said, how do we help? And that's what everyone has to do. I think the unions have to change a little bit. I believe in unions. I'm a member of a great union. But all the adults have to change if we're going to fix our schools.
It leads to a huge question posed in USA Today this morning. Big picture of you, profound question. Can documentaries save us? Can they make a difference?
Well, I was lucky enough to be part of An Inconvenient Truth, this little movie that no one thought, it has charts and graphs, and no one thought it would change the conversation. Inconvenient Truth. And we, it didn't write policy, it didn't change science, but it changed the conversation. And people went to see the movie to start a conversation. They didn't always agree with it, but it was a way for people to get together and say, this matters to me. So on Friday, families can come and say, if I care about public schools, this matters to me.
And you actually give them something to do coming out of this.
Yeah, we have an amazing website now. We're really ready now. We weren't ready then. We have specific actions you can take. In major cities, we actually have a campaign manager. So in your city, there's a name and an email, a person you can call and say, how do I help in my city change and affect our great public schools?
Okay, Davis Guggenheim. The film opens this Friday in New York and Los Angeles. We want to continue the conversation on our website as well. You can weigh in on our shout-out board at abcnews.com/GMA. Thanks very much.
Thanks, George.
Thank you.